Oh boy. I have been hesitating and putting this off for some time. But I think it's time to finally go ahead and address it and talk about it. Oh boy, I'm so nervous about this. Partly because I'm not sure I'm going to get everything I'm wanting to say or all my thoughts, or to try and get as clear on of what I'm trying to say through this, because sometimes I just kind of ramble. I sometimes forget things I wanted to say, and all my thoughts and such. So I guess we should go ahead and just quickly let me address the thing. I guess you could refer to it as the big elephant in the room. For those of you who may not know or have not heard, forgive me. I have I don't have all the actual information here. This is kind of an on the fly thing at the moment to kind of address this thing and what's okay. Let me just go ahead and get right to it. There has been a recent situation where a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit, I should point out, has been filed by the one of I don't quite know how exactly this works. I'm not that familiar when it comes to departments for states and governments, and I'm not that much of a politics guy, but there has been a recent civil lawsuit filed by, I believe it's the State Department of California, that has to do with work environment or workplace environment, and monitoring that and addressing that, against Blizzard. And it has to do with basically some of the head guys that we have known over the years, including Alex, forgive me if I mess up his last name, Afrasabi or something like that, and some other guys that we have either seen over the years and probably don't know their names, or maybe we have heard them by name and perhaps are not that familiar with them. I saw a picture and I recognized a couple more of the guys from the famous clip where years ago Jesse Cox brought up the picture of the snake tail in the Gundrack dungeon for Chris Metz, and the other two guys on stage were in the picture that has been part of this whole thing, including the stuff about the Cosby suite. That bothers me on a couple different levels. Partly because of when it comes out, and I thought, was that stuff public knowledge at that point? But regardless, that they had been running basically like what was labeled either in the headline or the lawsuit a frat boy culture, where these guys, I guess, had been going about as rock stars, or at least with their mentality, or carrying themselves like that, and have been doing some pretty horrible things that fall into the sexual harassment category, with a number of people, not just coworkers, but apparently also some fans and such, and cosplayers as well. You can be able to look up the details, but it's pretty bad. It's pretty graphic. I don't really want to go into all the details here. It has been a devastating revelation for a lot of people when it comes to, Blizzard, because for a long time, people held Blizzard in a very high standard amongst other video game companies, that they were this company that we felt as if we could rely on and trust, that they were guys who actually cared about the games, but also about the players who played them. And at times they also felt very relatable. And, like guys like Chris Metzen being on stage, the hype guy, like, you couldn't feel like he was like one of us, one of the guys and such. And I don't know. I think that could be also part of the issue. Now, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but as far as I've heard, I believe people like Mike Morheim and Chris Metzen were not actually involved in this. They were probably the guys that were left out of this and were probably, prevented from having this stuff found out about. And, probably because these guys didn't want people like Morheim and Metzen to find out. And so they kind of kept it secret from them. That's what I think. I don't know if that's true or not. That's just what I think I've heard about what's been going on. Who knows? This is going to be something that is not going to be solved or fixed overnight. Someone I know who is much more into the legal stuff than I am, he predicts this is going to go on for at least a couple of years, like at least. Especially when it comes to all the stuff about filing lawsuits and all that other stuff. There are videos from other people, even some people who are more into the actual legal departments and actual lawyers and such that have been looking at this, and they have gone to much more detail on it. I highly recommend going ahead and checking those particular videos out if you'd like more detailed legal explanation on some of these things. But that's, that's a separate discussion. Oh man, this is the kind of thing, and it's like I said, it's bad to the point where this, you could definitely say, or at least I consider this, this is probably a worse thing than what happened a couple years ago with that Hearthstone player. I didn't address it at the time, partly because I had a certain kind of view on it. Nothing against what he was saying and such. I fully have full sentiment behind that. I don't know if that's the right word. I was in support of what he was saying and the whole sentiment behind it, but I can understand that the way he perhaps went about it was probably not the best way to go about, but that's a separate discussion. But this is bad, and apparently this has been going on for a long time. Like, I think I've heard this has been going on for like 15 years or so. Now, this is not something that came out, happened or was done overnight in terms of the lawsuit. This apparently has been like a investigation that's been going on for like a couple of years and such. So they, you can imagine that they've been building a couple of years worth of evidence in order to try and make this a substantial, like, legitimate lawsuit. Like, there's like legitimacy behind making this kind of claim and filing this kind of lawsuit, especially when this is not just from some person. This is from the state of California, so that's kind of like like a whoa kind of situation or reaction. I don't know. I'm sort of rambling about this, but yeah, that's what's going on. And because of this, a lot of people have been having very strong reactions to this, and it's understandable. This is something that is very bad, and it's understandable why a lot of people would have very strong reactions to this. I've been putting off addressing this and also other stuff as well because I felt it wasn't the right time, because I felt like there was a lot of emotional reactions to this. There's a term for this. It's too hot to deal with it right now. In other words, like, it's just kind of like way too volatile. Like, you want to wait until things have settled down a little bit more, or more developments have happened, or things have cooled down before you decide to go back into that or address it or deal with it. Once it's no longer too hot, you get what I mean? So it felt like when this first happened, it was too hot to deal with it or address it. I feel like things have perhaps kind of settled down a bit, not too much, because more developments are still happening. However, there's also been some positive developments from this. It's also worth noting this is not by the entire company. This is by a handful of disgusting gentlemen that did some pretty bad things. But there are still a lot of people there that are good people that, a number of them were also victims in this. And they shouldn't be also getting blamed for this. The whole, everybody that works there is not shouldn't be getting blamed here, because this is not about, necessarily the company. This is about these group of people. I almost don't even want to refer to them as people, because it's hard for me to believe that a person would do some of those things. But then again, we live in a world where any different kind of person can exist, and so should I really be surprised that there are people out there that would do these kind of things? Maybe not, and that's kind of a sad thing. But that's just unfortunately the kind of world we live in, unfortunately. But I also want to reiterate that point, that there are still plenty of good people that work there. And this is not just coming from me. This is coming from some other people that I've reached out to who have actual contacts with people who work there, that have emphasized to me that the contacts that they have, been talking with, they're good people, and they are still part of this, and they still work there. And there's been a number of things, going on. There's been a walkout by employees. There's also been some other responses and other public statements and such. J. Allen Brack has stepped down as president, and 2 new co-leaders are there. They are people who have not been with Blizzard for a long time, which can be seen as a good thing, because they were not people who were there during all this and involved in all this. Their backgrounds and such are different. One's from the Xbox team. I forget the background of the other one at the moment. But the point is that there's now new leadership there who don't have anything to do with the old guard that was involved with that stuff. So is that a good thing? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But cleaning house is more than likely a good idea, especially when it comes to the higher-ups, given what's been going on. So that, I would like to hope, is a positive development, but we will still have to wait and see. I've also been hearing about how some people, who are still working there, who are also part of the walkouts, and some of which who have also been victims, that because of the reactions of people that have been declaring whether or not they're going to continue either playing the games, not just necessarily just World of Warcraft here, but any of the Blizzard games, supporting the games, creating content for games, which I'm going to address that, in a bit here. That's part of the point of this video. Is that they want us to keep supporting it, keep watching the streams, aka keep supporting the content creators of the game, because they still work there, and they have worked really hard on this, and it's still their source of income. It's still their job. This is coming from the good people who still work there, including a good number of them, of course, are women, and some of them were victims to this and such, that some of them have been vocal that they want us to keep supporting the game that they worked really hard on. And remember, a lot of them had to work on this, including 9.1, like from home during pandemic and such. So you would think that a number of them have been working pretty hard on this, and they want us to be able to support the game that they've worked so hard on. And plus it's still their source of income. It's still their way of putting food on the table, keeping the electricity running in their home, etc., etc. And I guess that, and to me that makes sense, that even though they are wanting things to change over there, they don't want us to just completely stop supporting or playing the game, because it could possibly cost them their job eventually. Now, maybe some people would say, well, they should just go ahead and leave a place like that. Sometimes not everybody has those kinds of options. We don't know all their different kinds of situations and options when it comes to jobs and such that everybody else has. For some people, it may be easy to just leave one job and go get another. For others, it's not as easy. But it's, yeah, hold on a second. Let me just, yeah, hopefully I'll stop that. But anyways, I want to make it clear. I want to make this very clear. I absolutely condemn what these people did. What these individuals involved in this, the things they did. it's disgusting and it's horrible, and it's a civil lawsuit. So as far as I know, no actual criminal charges have been pressed or charged or filed or anything yet. I'm kind of hoping that somehow this is going to lead to possible criminal charges for these gentlemen and they end up in jail, because they certainly deserve it after, for some of these things. But I mean, that's just, my opinion. I don't know who's going to want to disagree with stuff, when you really look into the details of some of this stuff. But yeah, I hope those who did these things get what they deserve, that they get their comeuppance. And I want to make that clear that's how I feel about that. Okay. Because I want to also bring up this other topic here, which is the main kind of issue here is for those who are choosing to either stop playing the game, stop covering it, or to continue. I totally respect anybody and their choice either way. If they want to continue playing the game or support it and such because they want to perhaps support the good people who are still working there and the victims who worked so hard on this, fine. No judgment, by all means. If there are those who this is too far and they don't want to continue playing or supporting any Blizzard game, let alone World of Warcraft, and want to stop giving them money and such, fine. I totally respect that, and no judgment either way. It is sad when some people that have played so long have, that this is that breaking point where they decide to stop. It is sad, but I totally understand and respect it, and I'm not going to cast judgment on anybody who makes that decision either way. I feel like that would be inappropriate for me to do so, to be able to sit here and cast judgment on somebody for either choosing or to either keep playing or to not keep playing. And but it's not just me. I feel like anybody shouldn't be able to do that, because we don't know everybody's situations, their reasonings. We can't be able to do that to anybody unless we know what's going on with them and what their situations, and just we all have different things going on in our lives and such, and we don't know what other people's reasonings and feelings are, and I feel it would be inappropriate for anyone to go ahead and cast that kind of judgment on anyone regardless of their decision, especially if they try to make it clear the reasoning as to why they are doing so. And sometimes they will come out and be, let those know what their reasoning is and what their situations are and such. I've heard from some who are choosing to not do a day-to-day anymore outside of a few things here and there because they just, whether it be that they can't support it over the situation and the company and those getting that money, whether it be that they are unhappy with the game state and the way things are going, for whatever reason. And then there are those that feel like they want to because they've been doing it for so long, and whether it be playing it or creating content for it, that they want to go ahead and keep doing so, either because it's what has made their channel a success or for whatever other reason. It should be understandable. That's just how I see it. So with all that being said, I'm sure there are those of you who are wanting to know, how do I feel about this? Now, I couldn't decide what to have on the screen while talking about this, so I thought I would just go ahead and put this official message from the Warcraft team. This came out on July 27th, for those of you who haven't seen it. So this was an official message that came on the launcher. It was interesting that I had told my guild GM, who is a woman, by the way, just to point that out. That's part of what I'm getting to, is that I thought they would remove certain things having to do with some of those individuals, like Mr. Afrasabi or whatever his name is, because he had some stuff in the game referencing him. He even had an NPC in Stormwind, and they have removed all that stuff. And I called it. Once I started realizing what was going to, about this stuff, I said that was probably going to happen, and then, wouldn't you know it, this message came up, so... But anyways, I want to point out that there's so, you can see I'm struggling to talk about this, as best I possibly can, because this is such a, like I said, it's still a volatile situation. Making a video just talking about this is kind of dangerous for me. Because I feel like as if I'm opening myself up to a line of fire, or putting a target on my back. It's a very nervous situation for someone like me. Because I'm planning on continuing to do coverage of Blizzard games. Here's the thing, guys, and I want to try and come up with examples here to kind of explain my reason, because I'm sure those of you may be thinking I am somehow supporting those horrible things, and I am not. If anything, I'm supporting the good people who still work there, who are part of the walkouts, who are also saying that they want us to keep supporting the game that they worked so hard on, which I want to honor that. I should also point out that anyone... I've heard at least one person, another content creator, I'm not going to say who, say that they think anybody who keeps playing the game is a bad person. And I couldn't possibly disagree more. There are a number of people that I've seen still playing this game that I know for a fact are not bad people. And they have their own different situations and reasons as to why they are continuing to play the game. Whether it be certain responsibilities, whether it be other different obligations, or whatever. There shouldn't be any judgment cast either way, as I said. This all needs to be a personal choice, So, there are a number of different kind of ways to think about this. And I've been going through my mind about different examples as to the reasonings as to why I would have come to this kind of decision. I have a tendency, and there's other examples that can fall into this that I've heard others say, one of which I know he came up with a term, or I don't know if he came up with the term, but he referred to this term that I heard him say to kind of describe this. There's a few different ways to look at this. One is called death of the author. So how many of you love a creative work, but you are not fond of the author who created it? And there's numerous examples I can think of. Let's just stick with video games for just a moment. How many of you out there love Mass Effect or Dragon Age or Star Wars? In terms of the games that BioWare has made. But you're not fond of BioWare. At least these days. You're probably used to be fond of BioWare, but probably not anymore. How many of you love The Witcher? Whether it be the games or the books or whatever. But you're not fond of either CD Projekt Red or the author of the books. I've heard he's not a great person. I've heard a lot of people do not like him. I know one in particular person, he does not like that person. Even though he's not really much of a reader of the books, but he does love the games. I myself also, I love Witcher 3, but I'm not fond of CD Projekt Red and the way they've handled things. Another example can be the Assassin's Creed games. I still love the Assassin's Creed games, but I'm not a fan of Ubisoft and the things that have been happening there. Just, oh my gosh. But again, separating the work that I love from the author. And these are just video game examples. I'm sure there are some others I could come up with of games that I love, but I'm not fond of the company that made them. There are other examples outside of video games I could name. Like, here's an example that I've been told about: Harry Potter. I know plenty, that there are plenty of people out there, they love the Harry Potter books and the Harry Potter movies, but they're not fond of J.K. Rowling. I'm sure there are people out there that perhaps loved Michael Jackson's music, but were probably not fond of Michael Jackson himself. Or Elvis Presley's music. Now, maybe not Elvis Presley, but I've heard the manager of Elvis Presley, or I think it was his manager, that he was a pretty horrible guy. So, again, separation of creative work you love from the creative author you don't love, that you don't like at all. You see what I mean? You see where I'm going with this? Another term that can be used to kind of help with this situation in terms of whether or not to deal with this has to do with culpability, because there are some that would believe that if we would continue. Now, see, here's the unique thing about World of Warcraft compared to some of those other games, is that World of Warcraft is a subscription-based MMO that continues to, have content updated, and you keep paying a subscription in order to play the game, compared to other games like, say, The Witcher 3, where once you've bought the game, that's it. There's no subscription there, and it doesn't really continue to get updates because it's been out for a number of years, and once a game has been out for some time, it usually reaches a point where the company decides, okay, no more DLC, no more patches for that game, that's done with. And it's just, out for the public to do with what they please. So it's a rather unique thing when it comes to World of Warcraft in that regard. When it came to the subject of culpability, there was someone I know who brought up a term. It's called the chocolate dilemma. Apparently, if you buy and love and eat chocolate, or rather specifically Nestle chocolate, apparently you are culpable in child labor or child slavery, from what I understand. And then there's a number of other things that we can all be culpable in because of how interconnected everything in our world is. From the clothes that we wear, from the internet we use, from the electricity that we use. That there's a number of things that are just so interconnected that we can be culpable in so many things without even realizing it. And then that leads to another topic, which is hills. Hills that we decide to take a stand on and say, this is the hill that I'm going to take a stand on, and I'm not moving from it. And the issue then becomes whether or not this is the hill that you want to take a stand on, and then, the question then can be followed. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to stand on that hill, why didn't you stand on this hill over here that had to do with a similar or same thing? And you can see where that then the culpability chocolate dilemma thing kind of comes into play, and it becomes kind of an ongoing discussion in that regard. Another example I heard was something like Star Trek, in terms of covering it. Like, if you look at some of the behind the scenes stuff when it comes to some of the Star Trek shows, there was some pretty bad, like, kind of sexual harassment stuff that happened behind the scenes as well. And if that was the kind of hill that you would take a stand on, then you probably wouldn't want to cover or watch Star Trek, any kind of Star Trek anymore. At least that's the way someone I know put it, and he's much more into Star Trek than I am. But that was an example he used, when he was explaining his reasoning as to why he would continue to cover Warcraft as a fictional setting, because he also still continues to love the fictional setting and talking about it and covering it, just like I do. The thing is, guys, despite what these individuals have done, and I want to stress it that it's these individuals. It's not the whole company itself, because there's still quite a bit of good people that still work there that we need to support in this regard. But it becomes that death of the author kind of situation, because as I said, there's a number of creative works that I'd love that I have tended to separate from the author that I don't like. Like I said, I still like the Assassin's Creed games, but I'm not fond of Ubisoft. And think about how much of my channel features videos from Blizzard games here on the BattleNet. When we just look at this, how many videos do I have of World of Warcraft on my channel? How about Overwatch, Diablo, StarCraft? I was planning on going, re-recording all the campaigns again, because I enjoy going through the campaigns again. I really do enjoy it. Warcraft 3, I was going to finish my Reforged playthrough. Diablo 2, I was considering recording it when the remake comes out. Heroes of the Storm, back when I played it, and how much I used to cover it back then. I've never covered Hearthstone, but that's because I didn't necessarily think there was much reason to cover it. Not much in terms of story stuff. But I still love these games. And like I said, there are other games that I still love that I'm not fond of the company that made them anymore. You guys have been seeing me play Dragon Age and Mass Effect on this channel recently. I'm not fond of BioWare anymore. But, like Dragon Age Origins came out back in 2009. Should I really hold this game that came out in 2009 accountable for the things that have been going on with the company now? To me, that just kind of doesn't really click in my head. That if something bad happens at BioWare, that I must now hate Dragon Age Origins or never play it again. Now, as I said, World of Warcraft is a little unique in this kind of situation because of the ongoing, support and updates and the subscription thing, and oh man. I have this is the kind of thing that it's more so made me want to have another separate the creative work from the author situation here. That while I may not love Blizzard anymore, in a similar regard, like how I don't love BioWare anymore, it hasn't, destroyed my love of these, games and their settings. I was, I was looking forward to Overwatch 2 coming out, and, because of all the story content that they were going to be doing, and I was finally excited to finally get to see some actual single-player story content in the game, in the Overwatch setting and learn more about it, And getting to go through the StarCraft campaigns, show you guys StarCraft, remastered to show that, and go through StarCraft 2's campaigns again just to kind of talk more in depth about it and show you the higher quality. I still love these games, and that hasn't changed, with this whole situation. But I also want to also iterate something else, and it's that there are still good people, plenty of good people that still, play these games, Getting to play with my friends crossplay now on Overwatch who play on consoles has been a blast. I love it. I love getting to play with some of my friends who live in other parts of the country, but they don't play on PC, they play on consoles. But now I'm actually able to play with them here on my PC. It's been wonderful. And just the past couple of weekends getting to, raid with my guild and have fun with them, has been wonderful. But I also love that my guild has also been promoting, especially from my GM, who, our GM is a woman and our raid leader is a black man, that they have been pushing and emphasizing that the guild and community is a very positive and welcoming community that's going to continue to push forward that kind of, atmosphere amongst our group, and that there's, it's always going to be welcoming and positive and have zero tolerance for toxicity and all that kind of horrible kind of behavior like what these people, at Blizzard were doing. That's not going to be a part of our guild and community, and they're good people, and it's been so much fun to continue to play the game with them. And they're gonna continue to do so. They want to push back against this by making the place that we have in the game a positive place, to try and to push back against a lot of this negative and toxic stuff that's been happening, and try to push more positivity into the game and its community during these difficult times. So, I'm going to be continuing to play the game, to have fun with them and raid with them, and, still be a part of this community, assist them when it comes to things like raiding or doing, dungeons and such, when they ask for help, that I'll be ready to help them out. And I want to be able to continue covering the story content that I've been invested in for quite a long time. I've made a lot of videos on these things because of how invested I have gotten into this whole thing. I wouldn't continue to play this if I wasn't invested, if I didn't care, and if I wasn't having fun. I still continue to have fun playing this game, and that matters. I'm the kind of person that if I was not having fun or I wasn't interested, I wouldn't keep playing it. But I still continue to have fun, and I still love it, and I still am invested in it. I still care about it. And I'm sure some may wonder, would I ever switch from this to, say, Final Fantasy XIV? The thing is, I didn't grow up with Final Fantasy. I'm not someone that somebody would perhaps consider a fan of Final Fantasy. I just never got into it. The first time I was ever introduced to Final Fantasy was Kingdom Hearts. I didn't know who Cloud or Squall or Sephiroth were, or any of that. I've tried to get into Final Fantasy, sometimes over the years, trying to play the original games, play Final Fantasy 15. I just never really got into it that much. Plus, I knew what I would be getting myself into because Kingdom Hearts taught me about JRPGs and the kind of time and investment you got to spend into that, when it comes to, okay, I'm going to be, and I've watched other people stream some of the other older Final Fantasy games like Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy VII, and seeing, the amount of time that it takes to go through that and such. And so I knew what I would be getting myself into. I just never really got into it. If I was to leave WoW and play another MMO, I said, quote unquote MMO, I would go back to Star Wars: The Old Republic. Because I care more about Star Wars than I do about Final Fantasy, and I don't care if it's a good MMO. It's a game I like and care about. I'm invested in it. The thing is, I've never cared about the MMO side of things, because that's not what drew me in. That's not something that I really cared about. Forgive me, but there are times it sounds like some people, they don't care if it's a good video game or not. They just care if it's a MMO, because apparently MMO and video game are two different things to them. They want it to just be this social platform as opposed to it being an actual video game. And I know that's a separate discussion, but that it just seems like talking about good or bad MMO and such, and people are saying that Final Fantasy XIV is a better MMO, but that's just not something I ever have really cared about. I'd never have once wanted to play WoW because it was a quote-unquote good MMO. It was because it was a Warcraft game in a fictional setting that I grew to care about, that I fell in love with pretty quickly. And the same thing goes with some of these other games, regardless of what the genre is. It's the stories and the characters and the settings that I get invested in. That's why I would be more interested in playing Star Wars: The Old Republic as opposed to Final Fantasy XIV, because I care more about about Star Wars and the different characters you can play, and the stories and the BioWare storytelling and the choices between light side or dark side. That's the stuff that interests me more than whether or not I could be able to do, other raid or, content that involves other players. They've even made changes to try and, I guess, accommodate more single player content, which I think is something that they should have done right from the beginning. Trying to make it an MMO to compete with others, I think, was a mistake. But that's just my opinion on that whole thing. So, yeah, the bottom line that I was basically trying to get to in this little ramble that I've been doing, and for almost 40 minutes here, is that I'm going to continue to play and cover, games like World of Warcraft. At some point I'm wanting to do my go through of the StarCraft campaigns again. If any notable updates come out for Overwatch, maybe when Overwatch 2 comes out, finish my playthrough of Warcraft 3 Reforged, maybe cover Diablo 2 Resurrected. I'm not entirely sure. I was also interested in Diablo 4 when that comes out. And if that is something that upsets you or bothers you, and you choose to either not watch that content because of this, I'm fine with that. I'm not going to judge you for that. I understand why you would feel that way, even if it also makes you perhaps not want to watch or continue to follow or support my channel at all. I understand, and I'm not going to hold that against you. I still love these games, and I still want to keep playing them and covering them, despite this horrible situation. And I am someone who hopes it gets very resolved. Like I said, I hope the individuals involved in this stuff go to jail because they deserve it. I hope the victims are able to get as much support as they possibly can in this. The good people who are still employed at Blizzard get supported and are able to get the things that they are demanding of the leadership, not just the new leadership at Blizzard, but from the leadership at Activision, if that can get resolved. But I mean, who knows with a company like Activision, right? It's like hoping for some those kind of changes at a company like EA or something like that. It's like we're not really gonna hold our breath for that, right? But who knows? We'll see. I wish I could be able to have some way to look into the future and be able to see whether or not this whole situation is gonna happen, have a happy ending or have positive results, or who knows. I would love to know that and to tell others about that, but I can't. I'm not able to do that, unfortunately. So that's the bottom line. A lot of people have also, even most recently, as yesterday, I got a comment on one of my other Warcraft videos, tell me that they thought it was a great video. They loved the voices I did. The other day, I had someone say that they thought my video was helpful, that they were struggling to do something until they saw one of my videos and it helped them out. And that made me feel good about it. It's good to know that these videos that I make here are either making people happy or they're helping people. And that really helps kind of solidify whether or not I want to keep doing this, or not necessarily, to keep making and covering the content of these games here that I love, including World of Warcraft. I just don't want anyone to misunderstand that if I continue to do this, to cover games like this, it doesn't mean I support what those horrible people did, because I don't. Oh, man. I'm in the midst of also hoping that good things will happen going forward, that positive changes will happen going forward. So, anyways, I wanted to let you guys know that, because after this, I'm going to be uploading some of the other, can go back to continue to upload content from World of Warcraft and other Blizzard layer games if I get around to recording those. Like I said, if I get around to doing getting back to where I was in Warcraft 3 Reforged, to doing the StarCraft campaigns, if you want to watch something else on my channel other than that, other than anything related to Blizzard, I understand. I'm going to continue to be working on Mass Effect Legendary Edition and all the Dragon Age games. So, as you guys know, that's going to equal quite a bit of content, because all the Mass Effect games and all the Dragon Age games, which I'm also thinking about restarting my Mass Effect Andromeda playthrough once I finish the Legendary Edition. So, there's also that. So, if you want to watch something else other than Blizzard-related content on this channel, there'll be other content for you to watch. So, I hope that this will be help in those of you wanting to know where I stand on this and what I'm going to do going forward, and be understanding, and that I respect either of your decisions or judgments on this. Though I don't necessarily think judgment is something that we should be utilizing in this kind of situation here. I think it would be rather inappropriate, but that's just me. So yeah, to those of you who perhaps are going to continue to watch and support me and such, I have a tremendous amount of thanks and gratitude that I can't be able to properly put into words to let you know how much it means to me. So yeah, I hope that this answers what some of your questions or thoughts, and I will see you guys next time.